We're already in it. I was supposed to put this out yesterday, but God had something else for me to do. God bless God. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Let's all exalt his name together. Together. What is a legitimate church and how do you find it? These are seven, albeit six, but seven. I'm going to give you a bonus. Seven ways to identify God's chosen church so that you can find a community of believers that's actually going to accentuate your place and your purpose here as a child of the Most High God. Make sure you drop a like if this is something that serves you. And if you would like to contribute funds to this process, I'm always welcoming to those things. All right, so if you find yourself in a community of people that only shame, blame, guilt, and tear you down, you are not in a church that builds a bridge to God. You are in a satanic sanctuary, a satanic temple that is a barrier to God. And unfortunately, most communities that call themselves Christian are that. In today's video, we are talking about how to identify a real church and the importance of churches for the future of the golden age. By the end of today's video, you will know the 5 signs that your church is building the golden age and restoring God's heavenly empire on earth. So, intro. Before we go into the 6 signs of God's chosen church, an apex Christian church, think about this as you watch today's video. I want you to ask yourself these questions. How do I feel when I'm at church? How do I feel when I leave church? How do I feel inside the church building? These 3 questions are going to let you know whether or not you are in God's sanctuary, among God's chosen elect people. All people are God's children, but there are a specific group of us that are God's chosen. It's a very different community. All right? If the answer to these questions is that you feel uplifted, enthusiastic, and filled with inner peace, if you feel restored when you're in this church building, if you feel renewed and serene or joyful, you have found an Apex Christian church. Congratulations. Sow into that church. Support that church. Make sure that you bring your children to that church. A church apocalypse is inevitable. I've already said this. We'll say it again. There's going to be another church apocalypse. 2020 was actually a wonderful thing because it was a form of a church apocalypse. Churches that were not doing it shut down. Like if the Spirit of God wasn't there, and it just closed down. Yeah, you can't shut God up. Okay, you just can't. If you try, the rocks will cry out, the trees will cry out. Okay, everything proclaims the glory of God. You can't deny that. It's just the human mind that sometimes gets confused. And that's because we have the spark of God within us that allows us to trick ourselves if we want to. It's okay. Not a big deal. So anyway, humanity is advancing with the increasing sophistication of AI and the integration with quantum computing. So the church, as it is, or as it has been in the recent past, was a barrier to God. But these sorts of churches are no longer viable. They're not happening anymore, y'all. You have to pardon me. I'm gonna reach for an Alexa. I need to get my drink a drink. Get my drink a drink on. Oh yeah. This is the best thing in the world. It's seltzer, sparkling water. I thought Jesus was the best thing in the world. Hyperbole, folks. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have burped on the. That's really anyway. Who cares? All right. So let's get into it. This really matters. So there are 6 signs. They're really 7. I give you guys 7, but there's a bonus at the end. That was my trick, right? But there are 6 signs that will determine if your church is and faith will survive the coming church apocalypse. Just ignore that. It's coming closer. So let's talk about what churches originally are. I'm just leaving out the last part there. God told me don't say that. All right. So original use of churches. Now churches are as old as humanity. Okay. The original church was the Garden of Eden. That's where God spoke to his chosen. That's where God spoke to his children. I mean, and there was no other place but that. And so humanity was living in a church constantly. But churches today are an essential component of rebuilding the Golden Age. Churches, temples, sanctuaries are of the past were made for refinement, healing, and elevation. So you go back to the ancient Greeks. I did it better that time. You go back to the ancient Greeks. You go back to the Romans were savages, but the Greeks, going back to the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Persians, the Mesopotamian groups, the Chaldeans, and others, ancient India, a lot of these places, ancient China, these people were sophisticated and they understood the importance of having a node or a central point in the community where God spoke to the elect. Now, in palaces and in the elevated places where the leadership and royalty operated, there was always a sacred place made of certain stones and certain materials that activated that divine spark within. And God has filled the earth with these things, with gold, with silver, with diamonds, with emeralds, with rubies and sapphires. If you go back to the Old Testament, the priests of God had 12 precious stones or semi-precious stones on their ephod. An ephod was a device that was placed on the front of the priest's robe that protected them in the presence of the Most High God, in the presence of the Shekinah glory that was in the Ark of the Covenant. So precious stones, precious wood, precious metals, semi-precious stones, marble, all of these different types of materials that God has placed in our world are designed to accentuate the divine spark. And humans have the intellect and intelligence to utilize these materials in the building and construction of sanctuaries and of healing centers and things like that. So you go back to the Vanderbilts and some of the Rothschilds and other like really high level, very powerful, influential families in the United States. These individuals, they built their houses using the principles of building Solomon's temple and building Parthenons and things like that. So keep this in mind as we speak about the physical building of God's temple for his chosen and his elect. And then we'll talk about the spirit of the place. So churches, temples of the past were places of healing, refinement, elevation. Everyone was being called, even the cathedrals and the great mosques of the Middle East, of the Muslim world, the Moorish world, were all designed to lift your spirit up to the source from which we all come. Okay? The golden age structure for what churches and temples actually are can be seen in the temples in places like Kemet, or what you call Egypt. I've been in these temples and I can tell you, even though they are all dead, I've been in several of them, they're all dead, guys. People go into these Egyptian temples, there's a slight bit of energy left, but these places are dead. Egypt is a giant graveyard of apex humanity, of civilization. It's the last, the Greeks were kind of the last civilized people, but the Egyptians were the last civilized people that had a little spark left as a whole, as a community. Ancient India had it too. They were apex Christian as well. But when you go back to great minds like Imhotep, who was an early Christ, he was a type of Christ. Asclepius, who was also a type of Christ. And then you look at the cathedral period in the 13th century in Europe, that was a very high level civilization or high level community, the last of apex humans. It was the cathedral time in the Renaissance in Europe, the rebirth in Europe. The mosques of the Muslim world, very high level, sophisticated art, very high level temples that elevated. You'll go to the Alhambra in Spain and many of the places in Spain from Moorish architecture. All of this stuff is to elevate one's spirit up to God. Solomon's temple, the temple of Jupiter in Baalbek, the Trilithon. These are all examples, and then there are many places in China and Japan and others. These were all churches, y'all. I'm going to use the word church because it was not just a place where you go and admire the gods. Thank you for that. It was a place where you went to activate God within yourself. Okay? So, a lot of times, and especially in the Asclepion in Greece, one of the last places to have civilization, humans were required to prepare themselves prior to entry. So there were cleansing rituals. You had to clean your body. You had to clean your mind. You had to go through fasting. You had to be off of your period if you're a woman. All these things, like you were, again, the Temple of Solomon, the same thing, cleansing rites, cleansing things. In Mesopotamia, their temples. In Egypt, their temples. Everyone had to come before God with humility, not with humiliation, not but humbleness. I'll use the word humbleness, meaning authenticity, cleanliness. There was a high level of respect for God. So let's say hi to Cool Kid again. Thank you. And Thomas, hello, welcome, welcome. So you had to, if you were going to enter the church or the temple or the place of God's presence, you had to cleanse yourself. That means cleansing your mind, cleansing your body. And again, you would ritually wash. When you go into the Muslim, when you go into the masjid or the mosque, you have to do wudu. You have to clean your face and your hands and your feet, right? And you want to be clean anyway. You want to smell good when you're in God's temple. So sacred places where life was honored, refined, and explored were very high places. Now I'm going to get a little deep here. So Cool Kid, if you're underage, you might want to back out. Okay, I'm going to talk about some adult things, but I'm going to make sure that they are as clean and as good. I'll put it this way. What I'm going to talk about is clean and perfect. God created it, and it was his first commandment for us to do these things. But if you're a child, I do not want to encourage you to explore this type of stuff. I want you to stay away from it, okay? So I'm just giving you that warning. I'm going to talk about adult things, okay? So you might want to leave. So sacred places where life was honored, refined, and explored were places of sexuality, spirituality, and identity, or sex, spirit, and self. And this goes back again as long as humans have existed. Sexuality and spirituality were not separated. That was something that the Puritans, that was something that the Christian ascetics in the first through third and fourth centuries started to do. And the ancient Hebrews, the ancient Greeks, the ancient Egyptians, they never separated sexuality from spirituality. It was never separate. It was all together, all as one. And I will give you Bible verses that demonstrate this explicitly. They're not hiding it. Look at the book of the Song of Solomon. Read that book. It's adult material, y'all. Okay, it's using flowery allegorical language, but it's all adult material. It's all adult material. You don't have to go online to find that stuff. You open the Bible; it's right there. It's all over. Okay, but the ancient, the old English writers and whatnot, they did a lot to cover up. But if you look at the symbolism, you actually look at what they're saying. Like, well, all right. So anyway, churches originally were places where sex, spirit, and self were accentuated and brought up to God. So let's talk about sex, because that one's one that's very hard for Christians. They've been castrated. Just about everybody since everybody's been castrated. Okay, and then when I use the word castrated, look it up in the dictionary. I mean it, actually, spiritually, and I mean it spiritually, but also literally in a lot of ways. People have been had their reproductive ability removed from them. When you go to a job and it does not serve your spirit, and you're not bringing that gift, that life, that baby in your heart into the world, you have been castrated. Your ability to reproduce, the first command that God ever gave humanity was be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. And what did humans do? We did to some extent, but instead of reproducing the joy and the fulfillment and the purpose that God had for us, we started perpetuating Satan's stuff, right? And so that's what led to the fall of humanity. That's why the Bible was created, to help us get back to where we need to go. So anyway, the church originally was a place of sexuality, and sexuality has been perverted. So let me fix it here with us on this call, or on this talk. Sex is the coming together of the masculine and the feminine principle. You notice in all the Masonic symbolism, you have a black and white pillar. The black pillar is the white is a woman, and the white pillar is the man. Black pillar is the female, feminine, universal cosmic energy. The black pillar is the masculine, limited physicality, world, earth energy. Okay, so it's all the stuff is still there, but it's again been corrupted. So sex is just the bringing together of the polar opposites, which they're not polar opposites, we'll say complements, polar complements, to create something new. So if you have darkness and light, You bring them together and you create the day, right? Something like that. This is the best little quick analogy. You have water and stone, you bring them together, you have a river, the river of life. All right. This is deep symbolism, but stay with me. All right. So the marriage mystery of Christ is central to the church. The marriage mystery, what is the marriage mystery? Two, the man left his mom and dad and cleaved to his wife. The twain became one flesh, and new life was created from that. So in Genesis 2:24, it tells us that a man should leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. The twain shall be one flesh. If you know anything about the reproductive act, that's what happens. Two bodies become one body. Okay? Let's leave it at that. Ephesians, Paul reiterates that mystery, and he said it is a mystery because he equates the sexual act, the coming together of male and female, to the marriage of Christ and his church. Christ and his church. We are married to Christ. In ancient Israel, all of the children of Israel were married to Jehovah, and Christians are married to Yeshua, Jesus, right? It's the same analogy, it's the same allegory. So, let's go back to the original churches. The temples in Mesopotamia, the temples in Egypt, the temples in Kemt, the temples in Persia, the temples throughout Greece and in other ancient and need I say pre-cataclysmic temples in Mongolia, in China, places like that, in Japan, in India. These were places of fertility. You go to India now, they still have those temples standing. Now, ancient Middle Eastern temples that had the symbolism were destroyed by the Christians and the Muslims, unfortunately, because these people lost their minds and they thought sex was bad and dirty and evil. The Muslims are still, psychologically sound when it comes to sexuality. Christians have been, completely cut off, unfortunately, because of the Puritans. Thank you, Puritans. And the crazy French who wanted to do all kinds of abominable acts with children. Sorry, not just all French people, but the French generally as a country. Anyway, so the fertility rituals that you found in Mesopotamian, Chaldean, Indian, and other temples are still there. You go to India now and you can find churches, and they call them temples, but I'm going to call them churches for the sake of this conversation. The gods, not the gods, we'll say the humans in Cambodia, in India, in Thailand, all these places. You go to these temples and you have very explicit reproductive acts chiseled into the stone on these temples. In ancient cultures, they understand that's how you make other humans. They went a little bit crazy in India. So they went a little overboard, but generally, and you didn't have to do all that. They went a little crazy, I'll be honest. But it was understood that fertility takes place at the seat of where spirituality happens. The Inca understood this as well. I've been to a lot of the Inca sites, and of course, they were smarter than India. When it comes to these things, they didn't explicitly show pornographic material on all their temples. India, get it together. But the Inca were very good about this, where they understood that fertility and life could not be separated from a relationship with God, the source being. Taita Inti, as the Inca, the Quechua people call it, Taita Inti, the source of life. And so they understood that you cannot have crops growing without some sort of fertility, without some sort of relationship with God being accentuated. So in all of their areas where they grew their crops, there were altars to God, Taita Inti, where they called the sun god. Same thing, okay? So fertility rituals and temple prostitution all took place in the same areas. Temple prostitution was not only just the act of helping to create more children, we'll leave it that way, but it was actually, and we're not trying to do this in churches, y'all, just follow me on this, okay? All right. Often this took place in temples. So in places like Mesopotamia, the temple prostitutes and priests were there to help with the flow of life and the accentuation of life and beauty and these sorts of things. All right. Biblical archaeology, when you go to the biblicalarchaeology.org, it states that there's no evidence that the Bible narrative, are there any Bible narratives of priests of Jehovah let me go back. So in the Bible, it talks about this group of women called the Kadeshach. And they were of Mesopotamian origin, but you find them in the Bible. And when you go back to This is getting nerdy, but just follow me if you can. Uh, Strong's Concordance, exhaustive concordance number 2181, and I did not put Kadesha here, so pardon me for that. Maybe I can just pull it up here. Did I save myself here? It's okay if I didn't, because if it was needing to be there, God would have me put it there. But anyway, the Kadesha and the Zanach, the Zona, or the Zanal, I'm saying that wrong, Zanal, were prostitutes. And there are two examples of this. One is Tamar and the other is Ruth. But Tamar actually um, put herself out there and actually sold herself to Judah, if you read Genesis 38:15. Now, Judah and Tamar, they do this act, and Judah pays her for it because he didn't realize that she was his daughter-in-law. And so the term used there was Zanah. And the Hebrews were never really shy about reproductive acts. So most Christians see this as an example of prostitution in the Bible. I would say that's not prostitution, it's something else, because when I looked at the Hebrew basis of this story, it seems that something else was happening there. Judah, the name Judah means praises, and Tamar, I should have gotten that one, but Tamar means something else. I think something else was happening here. I do not think that there was actual quote unquote prostitution that took place, even though that's the main idea. But sexuality was a big part of the temple structure, meaning it was a place where husband and wives would go and say, Lord, bless us to have children. It was look at Jesus, Mary, Jesus and Joseph and Mary. They went to the temple when Mary was betrothed, and they went to Zechariah and I believe Hannah. Forgive me if it was Zechariah. I believe it was Hannah. Yeah, I think it was Hannah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Christians. Jump in the chat. But they went to them and say, "Hey, look, we got this baby. What we got to do?" Right? So sexuality is the coming together. It's marriage. It's not I do. It's when a man and a woman come together and decide they're going to follow God's first command, which is to be fruitful and multiply. And that doesn't just mean making babies. That also means bringing things into the world that have spiritual significance, forming a community, building a project, something like that. It's a sexual act by definition. We've relegated sexuality to what happens in the bedroom at night when all the kids are asleep, but it's more than that. Okay, so that's what I'm saying here. And the temples originally, they did not shy away from that concept. The priests and the priestesses were like, okay, you're having fertility issues, you can't have a baby. All right, come here. We're gonna see what we can do. We're gonna give you some herbs. We're gonna give you something, right? And churches should revive that. Now, we do not need to have people going into the church to make children. That's not the point. You do that in the sacredness of your home. But originally that was there. And a good church is actually going to incorporate this. They're going to have counselors, they're going to have pastors that are trained in this. They're going to say, hey, look, you're new married couples. We're going to bring you together in a way that's going to help. Because what's the purpose of marriage, guys? To make healthy, happy children of God. Not to just get together and I do and then our finances. No, that's satanic. It's okay. That's important. You need that, okay? But it is a box. The point is, yes, you need that box in place. You need to have good financials. You need to have a good purpose in life, a good community to support those kids. Yes, 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 yes. But in addition to that, the whole point is to be fruitful and multiply, bring healthy, happy children of God into this world. The more we reproduce as children of the Most High God, the fewer satanic people are, satanic minded people are there. So we need to be having those kids. We need to be having a strong community that supports them. And that's why it's so important that you find a church community or you create a church community that is based on the biblical principles in the deeper sense, not the crazy stuff they teach you in the world today. So yeah, go into the Bible and you'll see all this stuff. Read Song of Solomon, read Genesis 38 for 15, read Genesis 2:24, Ephesians 5:32. There's a lot of sex in the Bible, guys, and it really matters. Okay, the second purpose of the church, temples all over the world with just churches, is spirit. People went into the temple, into the church, into the place of holy worship and sanctity for healing from spiritual sickness. According to the ancient people, all sickness was spiritual sickness. I mean, unless you got run over by an ox cart, but even that was spiritual, right? But look, you had a tummy ache, you went to the priest, you went to the priestesses. You had a feminine problem, you went to the priestesses. You had a bloating or gas or a funny lump on your butt, you went to the temple. Okay, because all these things were spiritual in nature. And Imhotep, who's the father of medicine, Asclepius, who's the father of medicine, Hippocrates, who's the father of medicine. All these people were fathers of medicine. But anyway, and Pythagoras or Pythagoras as well, they understood the importance of healing the body in sacred spaces. And so you had to cleanse your body. You had to go there and say, look, I've got this lump and bump. I needed help with it. You go to the temple, the priests, the priestesses, whoever would look at you and say, why do you think Jesus let me look at the Bible? The 10 lepers. Go show yourself to the priests once I've healed you. I mean, so the church was a place of healing as well, of the spirit, but also the body. And then, of course, self, finally. So sex, spirit, and self were the purpose of the temple, purpose of the church, was self. So when the children of Israel went to the temple, what did they go there? They went there to deal with their psychological illness. You think of the Catholic. The Catholics are still good at this. You go to a Catholic church and you confess your problems to the priest. Hey, priest, I've been looking at this adult content at night. I can't let it go. Hey, priest, I've been cheating on my husband. Hey, priest, I'm gambling all my money away. Hey, priest, whatever, right? And you let it go in a place where God saw you and forgave you and took the sin, took the fear, took the suffering from you and healed you. And so in ancient Israel, they actually used sacrifices. This is the self part of the temple. You would go there and you'd purchase a dove, which Jesus got pissed off at. And he was right. This was silliness, but whatever. This is just how they did it. But you go purchase a dove if you had a little sin, or you were poor. You couldn't pay for a lamb or a goat or something. It was usually goats. They were scapegoats, the Azazel. And so you go to the temple and you have a little dove and you put the sin on that dove and you slit its throat, unfortunately, and then the dove would be burned and that would go up to God. Now a lot of people criticized the ancient Hebrews for this and said, oh, they were savages and they were bad to animals. Everybody did this, right? Like they did it in Mali, they did it in Europe, they did it, the Druids did it, like everybody did it. Now, a lot of people were doing this to children, which is completely abomination, which is against God, and God was extremely against that. It was during a very dark satanic age in the human story, but God rescued us from that with Jesus and also with the Inca. And God sent the Viracochas, God sent the Inca, God sent all of that to fix all of this child sacrifice malarkey, okay? But even with Abraham, that was Satan. That was Satan came and told him to do that. It wasn't the God Yahweh. It was one of the Elohim. Satan's one of the Elohim, like us, but we're above him. So anyway, sacrifices were where you took care of yourself. If you were dealing with, okay, I feel guilty about this, or I have this problem, or I have this challenge, you went and you placed that on an animal, and the animal was sacrificed. Or you went there and talked to a priest, like you do with the Catholics and stuff like that. So it was a place of healing the self. So healing the spirit, healing sex, healing spirit, healing self, sex, spirit, self. So we would place the sin on the animal or on that sacrifice, and we preserve ourselves and gain the mercy of God. Placing sins on animals, especially lambs and goats, was and slaughtering them was a symbolism of us that was kind of it was like saying Christ is going to be the sacrifice. And all cultures had it, everyone. Don't let the Christians trick you, mainstream Christians. The Maya had it, the Inca had it, everybody had this. When I was in Peru, they showed me where they would sacrifice llamas. You would go and put your problem on the llama and they'd slit its throat and light it on fire. I mean, I'm simplifying it, but it's the same thing. They didn't have sheep; they had llamas. They had llamas and alpaca. Okay, in Mexico they had a similar system, and all throughout sub-Saharan regions they had a similar system. In Ghana they had the same sacrificial system, which was actually a Jewish system that got there. But again, I digress. All right, we're saying how cool kid. Can I come back now? Yes, of course. Thank you. We're done with the sex stuff. Thank you for coming back when it's safe, man. And I'm not saying safe like, oh, keep kids from sex. What I am saying is that the world is full of a lot of corruption and a lot of abominations and a lot of immorality. And we need to make sure the kids are protected from that. So I try to do the best not to. None of the stuff is bad for you necessarily, cool kid. It's just that it might spark some curiosities that lead you down rabbit holes that I don't want you to follow through on as a young person with the internet the way it is. So just stay with God, stay on the right path. Thank you for coming back at the right time. All right. So remember, you, cool kid, are chosen. And yeah, Bakal F says hi. Hello, hello. And Mojit, uh, sorry here. I gotta turn the light up on this. Mojtabat. Yeah, okay. I hope I said that right. Anyway, cool kid, remember you're a child of the Most High God. You are chosen. Okay? Your identity is apex human. So don't disrespect your father by tolerating that which is not up to par for you. Okay? Only tolerate that which is optimal in yourself and in others. Why? Because as an apex human, you must have a solid support team of positive, powerful, purposeful comrades, because we are here, part of God's team rebuilding his golden age and his empire on earth. We are all part of rebuilding God's earthly empire, restoring divine harmony, and commanding a new and golden age in the human experience. So we get to live wonderful lives, and that's how we do it. We don't do it by, hey, you over there, homeless man that's unhappy, go be God's servant. No, that's not our job. Our job is, hey, I used to be homeless, and look at me. I've got 8 houses on 5 different continents. Okay, and I I employ several people in those communities, and there are lots of people that get to enjoy my beautiful homes, right? So that's how you do it. That's one way. There are many ways. Okay, that's not the only way. There's many ways. So now I'm going to share with you 7 signs that your church is chosen. Okay, that was just the intro, guys. I had to get everybody up to speed with where we are now in the golden age. All right, if 3 or more of the following signs are found in your church, you have found a church of God, a church that is blessed by God, touched by God, and chosen by God. Okay, so congratulations, you're part of the Apex Christian community. If all 6 are met, you and your church will dominate the Christian story and human story moving forward. So don't worry about it. Keep loving each other, keep loving God, keep being amazing. Everything's going to fall together in your favor because your Father's got your back. Okay, sign number 1 that your church is chosen is this. Sign number 1, your church is a bridge to God, not a barrier. If your church helps you develop, cultivate, and refine your connection to the transcendent, to divine harmony, to God's divine law, then you are in an apex church. I love how the Orthodox Christians say it. They say God only has children, God has no grandchildren. That means you have a direct relationship with God, and your church should cultivate that. It should not say, well, you can go through us to get to God. I know the Catholics do that a little bit, and the saints in the Orthodox Church do that a little bit. But remember, at the end of the day, your Father, the Most High God, the Almighty, is the one that you have a direct link to, and your church should cultivate that. It should encourage that. It should support what you already have. You are already a child of the Most High God. You're already connected to God. You're already linked to the source of life and power and everything. You don't need the church necessarily, but the church is there to accentuate it, to improve it, to refine it, to support it. Okay? We are all directly linked to our Heavenly Father. The community in the church, the faith community, and the church are just enhancements, additions, supplements to what you already have. Think about taking, like, you can eat all the supplements in the world and drink all the protein powders in the world, but if you sit on your butt, never go to the gym, and never eat a good balanced diet, you are not going to gain muscle. And that's what a lot of Christians are doing. Unfortunately, they're just taking the supplement of the church and saying, okay, I went to church on Sunday, I went to church on the Sabbath, the Jewish Sabbath, the real Sabbath, which is Saturday, and they're doing all these things, and they're saying, okay, that's all I need. Okay, Monday through Sunday or Monday through Friday, I don't need it. Oh no, you need it every single day. So you should be cultivating it in yourself. Church should just be like a battery recharge. We already have the intercessor. The church is not your intercessor. Jesus Christ is our intercessor. He is the interface. He is the link between us and identity, God, Yahweh, the I am. Okay? So you have to be building that and working on that on your own every day. But going to church and being around believers and knowers of God, John 17:3, those who have eternal life, 17:3, John 17:3, look it up, because that's the only way to have eternal life. 17:3, John 17:3, look it up. Then you want to be around people who are doing that. Not just believers, because believers ain't going to get you there. It's the people that align with John 17:3. I'm not going to mention it. I can repeat it off the back of my hand like nobody's business, but I will let you look it up. So we are already have an intercessor. Jesus is immediately available to all humans breathing. All humans. I don't care if you're in the jungle of the Congo, underneath a rock somewhere. Jesus is right there. You don't have to hear the word Jesus. All you got to do is feel that energy. He is already there. He is the only interface needed. Okay, just like protein powder, the church is a supplement, but you've got to do your part. Okay. Unfortunately, most Christians are a barrier to God. Most Christian churches are a barrier to God that practice spiritual abuse. Let's talk about spiritual abuse, and we'll move on to number two. But spiritual abuse, and this is something I had to do research on. This was actual research, like, my stuff is published, so you can look it up. But spiritual abuse is a coercive or manipulative use of guilt, shame, blame, diminishing, and condescension that tricks the unsuspecting to outsourcing their power to an individual, a church, or an organization, specifically in a spiritual context, religious context, faith. It could be like these gurus from India who come here and abuse all these women, or take people's money or whatever. Right? It's the same thing. It's all spiritual abuse. It tricks unsuspecting people into outsourcing their divine power to someone in a robe, on a stage, whatever. Right? This kind of it's a spiritual scam, is basically what it is. A lot of churches practice it. And again, we're not going to shit on churches because they don't know any better. They were taught this from the churches that came before them. Well, you just beat people up with the devil, and you beat the hell into people and then scare them, and they come and give you their money, and then they pray for salvation. It's right in the Bible, salvation's already ours. So there are a lot of churches that buy into that lie. Okay. Okay. So the spiritual scam is almost ubiquitous in faith communities, not just Christians. Hindus do it, because I used to do the pujas and all that in the Hindu temple. I loved it, by the way. The Hindus got it down when it comes to temple stuff. But I used to do the pujas in temples, and I was part of the consecration, or the sanctifying of one of the largest Hindu temples in North America, and I got to watch that process. It was mind blowing. But everybody practices it: Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists. Yes, Buddhists are religious. Shinto, whatever. Everybody practices to some extent. Okay. Even the Wiccans that want to tell the world that they're the ones that got it together, they practice it too. I've seen too many covens of pagans that are sitting there, abusing people, and they're saying, "Yeah, I'm the spiritual guru, and you need to give all your power to me and do what I want to say," and they just abuse people. So stay away from that. It's a spiritual scam. Everybody practices it. The result of the spiritual abuse. So this is how you know you're a victim of spiritual abuse. Nobody's ever a victim. We don't believe in it, but I'm using that word. The result of spiritual abuse is that you feel small, incapable, self doubting in your relationship to the transcendent, in your relationship to the divine, in your relationship to God. When you think of God and you go, "He's mad at me," you're a victim of spiritual abuse. Come to my channel, watch all the videos, and you'll be healed. Hallelujah. That's a joke, guys. God is doing the healing, but He's using me, so I'm happy to support in the way that I do support, which is make videos and let you figure it out. All right. So the result of spiritual abuse is you feel small, incapable, self-doubting in your relationship with God. Most faith communities try to be middlemen or gatekeepers to the Most High God. Okay. And so when churches act as middlemen, they are a barrier to God, not a bridge. Going back to the first point, if your church is a bridge to God, it is an apex church. And if it's a barrier full of drama and BS, it is not a bridge to God. So, back when I was growing up in the 90s and 80s, they would say things like, "Have you heard the gospel, buddy? Where are you going to go when you die? Do you know where your soul is? Have you gotten forgiveness for your sins?" That's none of your problem, bro. Get the heavens out of my face, all right? Or get the hell out of my face, right? Keep the heaven in my face. But nowadays the term is, I have this really cool church that I love. You should check it out, right? That's the new version of, "Hey, buddy, have you been saved?" Right? Um, First of all, if someone lives in your community and they're your friend and they haven't heard of your church, don't invite them. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. If it's a friend of yours or there's someone that lives in your community and they haven't heard of your church, do not invite them, because your church's not doing it. All right, make your church so awesome they ask you if they can come. Okay, if your church is using it as a tactics, I'm gonna say it again. Make your church so awesome they invite themselves. "Hey, what are you doing on Saturday?" "Oh, I'm just like hanging out at the church." "Well, we should go out and do something. "No, no, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna be at church. It's like I really love it. But I'll catch you guys next Sunday or whatever. Or if you go to church on Sunday, Hey, what are you doing Sunday? We're gonna go to the beach. Nah, man, I got a thing going on. Yeah, but you should come with us. Nah, I'm really good. Yeah, I'm good, y'all. But I'll catch you guys like on Monday, Friday, Saturday, whatever other day. And they're like, what are you doing? Well, I'm just, I'm just going to church. But I'll catch you guys next time. I'll see you guys. What? His church is so awesome. He's not gonna go to the beach with us and get blasted. All right, make your church so awesome that they ask if they can come. Don't ever invite people to church. They need a, all right. Eh, or you say, they say, what are you doing on Sunday? Oh, I'm going to God's temple, glorify Jesus, whatever your church name is. And they're like, oh, you go to that church? Can I come? Can I come with you? That's what you want to hear. Don't be doing all this. Hey, my church is really cool. I think you should come. Don't ever do that. Okay. Again, if your church, don't ever invite people to church. All right. There you go. So whenever you try to invite people to church, it carries the stench of desperation. God's chosen are never stinking of desperation. We never stink of desperation. Anybody that's desperate, it stinks of desperation. That ain't God. That ain't God. That ain't God. No, it ain't. Okay, we have access to everything. Our Father is in charge of everything. We ain't got to get all up in people's business trying, hey, have you heard the gospel, buddy? No, we ain't got to do all that. All right. So the solution to all of this is find a church that builds a bridge to the Most High God by encouraging, lifting, inspiring, and enchanting, enriching your spiritual connection that you already were born with. You already connected to God. You already connected to Jesus. Jesus already forgave you of your sins. Your church should just be cultivating that, encouraging you, loving you, and supporting you. And look, if you have issues going on that are deeper than the church can handle, they should connect you with professionals that can actually help you. If you were molested or hurt or something like that, or something terrible happened, you were traumatized, and no one in the church can address that, they need to connect you with a trusted provider that can help you. A trusted provider that can help you. Okay? Not some weirdo that's just trying to blast your brain. Okay? You're not a sinner saved by grace. Don't ever buy into that lie. You're a child of the king and an heir to his kingdom. Remember that. All right? I'm going to turn that into a short. We're getting in time here. Goodness, we're at 41:55. 555. All right, so let's see if we can get through the rest of this. I think we can. I think I can. If I don't, guys, and it cuts me off, it is what it is. God bless you. Sign number 2 that you're in a chosen church. Your church family and building connect with the surrounding community. If your church family and your church community are not connected with the surrounding community, and they're just like a little like, oh, there's a building over there with a cross on it, and there's nice grass around it, but I don't know what happens there. You're not an Apex church. This demands that both are attractive and beautiful, by the way. You've got to have a beautiful church family and a beautiful church building. If your church is filled with unattractive people, let's put it that way. And I'm not talking about people that are not like hot and sexy and, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like bedraggled, sad, sick, busted, broke, struggling folk. If your church is full of that, and the building is falling apart, and there's like, grass hadn't been cut in 8 years, and the parking lot is broken up because all the trees are growing up around it, that's not an Apex church. So your church and your church family and your church building should connect with the surrounding community, and this demands that both are attractive. Okay, the Orthodox Christians got this on lock, so do the Catholics. They are pro-life, pro-family. And this is a big thing. An attractive church family has children, y'all. Little itty bitties, monsters, running around. That's an attractive church family. And it doesn't have weirdos trying to touch those kids. Okay? We're going to get into that next. But an attractive church family has little itty bitty monsters, children, human-shaped animals, which I love with all my heart, and a building that is very attractive. True Apex churches are pro-life and pro-family. Hands down. Now, I don't care what the discussion is about that, pro-life, pro-family. I'm not going to get into it. Another video for another day. That means babies, little kids, and young families. That means outreach, charities, and foundations. That means academic schools and universities. The Catholics got this on lock. They just got a priest problem. They had to fix that. But the priest problem was a problem. But the academics of schools and universities, they got that on lock. They got that sort of thing they got that on lock. For the most part. Okay. The Catholics and the Orthodox are really much better than the Catholics. I'm gonna step back. The Catholics have good cathedrals, and they've got universities and schools that are reputable. Okay, Notre Dame and all these others, they got great schools and things like that. And by the way, synagogues have this really good too, for the most part. The synagogues got it down, but the Orthodox Christians, yo, they really have it going. I've been to multiple Orthodox churches, and they got tons of kids, like tons of older people, and you need both ends of the spectrum. You need the older elders of this community. You need diapers on both ends. Little diapers and big diapers. I'm joking, but you need elders in the community and little kids. That's what makes an attractive church family. Okay, lots of families and elders and things like that. So the Orthodox understood that the house of the God is sacred, it is divine, and it is opulent. Opulent. So when you go to an Orthodox church, it's very clean. They take care of the grass, and if it's not, holler at somebody, tell somebody something. They need to fix that. No Orthodox church should ever look like trash. But all the Orthodox churches I've seen are beautiful, shining lights on the hill. The Catholic cathedrals typically are as well, typically. But then you got Catholic churches and ghettos that are messed up too. God bless them. Synagogues pretty much are generally pretty darn good, pretty heavenly good, pretty blessedly good. All right, but anyway, and the masjids, they come and go. If you're in a big Muslim community, the Muslims got it going. So I'm just highlighting people that got this under unlock. Muslims, Orthodox Christians, Catholics to some extent, and the Jews got the whole family centered, attractive faith community thing for the most part going. Okay. Again, there are outliers, but generally you got it going. Evangelicals and a lot of Protestants, Baptists, you got to work on that. Adventists, y'all got to work on it, man. Adventists are okay. The Mormons got it. The Mormons are pretty good. But again, look at them. They're good examples. If you're other type of Christian, just look at the Muslims and the Jews and the Catholics and Orthodox and the Mormons, and try and emulate what they're doing. Go to their faith communities, learn from them, observe them, watch them, and then take that back home and make your church great again. Okay? That's Makkah. Make my church great again. I'm going to come up with something, make a hat out of it. All right. Anyway, so they understand that God's house is opulent, divine, sacred, and worthy of the highest levels of glory, beauty, splendor, available to that community and appropriate for the community in which the church is planted. All right. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Of course you can come back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you heard me earlier. You're totally welcome to come back. So we're just talking about how church families and the church building should connect with the surrounding community. It should be attractive and beautiful. The people should be attractive and beautiful. The church should be attractive and beautiful. And I'm not talking about Hollywood 10s or LA 10s, the hot girls. I'm not talking about that, or the hot boys. I'm talking about beautiful people, beautiful spirits, take care of their bodies, and that sort of thing. Also consider, if you're going to a church that is smaller or more simple place of worship, ask yourself these three questions. Is the spirit of this place a spirit of abundance, opulence, and transcendent beauty? Does this place elevate my spirit to glorify the source of life, which is God the Most High? Does the mood or the spirit of my church or my faith community build or uplift my spirit? Those three questions. Is the spirit of abundance, of opulence, and transcendent beauty here? Because you can have a very simple, very small sanctuary that is clean, that smells good, that is beautiful. When you walk in, you feel the Spirit of God. You don't have to have the gilded, beautiful, golden places that you have with the Orthodox or the Muslims or the Catholics. Cathedrals, you don't have to have all that, or the synagogue. But it should be a place that when you walk in, you feel uplifted and you feel the opulence of God's presence. That's the main thing. But the building's got to be nice too, y'all. So get it together. Note the following. Don't expect gilded Corinthian pillars if you're in northern Siberia or if you're in the jungles of the Amazon. Like, don't expect all of that, okay? Nature is an opulent temple to the divine splendor of God and his harmony. So you can go out into the redwoods, you can go out into the sequoia forest or into the oak forest of the south or whatever and feel God's presence and see his beauty there. So don't get it twisted. You don't got to cut down a whole forest and build a shrine to Jehovah. If you don't have the resources, the means to do that, where you're a community, find a place that is filled with God's spirits, that is beautiful, that is uplifting. God will find you there and he will keep that community beautiful. It's possible that a tiny little hovel or a shack or a cottage can be a sacred and beautiful place. There's so many beautiful little quaint crystal shops I've been to where I felt the Spirit of God, and they were no bigger than my car. Okay, and they were bigger, obviously, right? So just keep that in mind. The spirit of a place matters, but let's not forget the beauty and the external glory. All right. Unfortunately, a lot of churches are subpar because they are a scarcity, poverty, victim, loser mindset, and people are taking the glory of God for themselves. And this is why, if your church stinks or if it's ugly and the people are sad and broken and bedraggled, they are actually doing what Satan and Lucifer did. They are taking God's glory for themselves. And I'll explain that. There's this rhetoric among a lot of Christians that we just humble country folk. Love of money is a root of evil. Give me that old time religion. I don't need no money. I just, that's taking glory for yourself. I'm above the opulence that God put all over the world. I'm above the gold and the gems and all that. Yeah, okay, but at the same time, God put that here for us to enjoy. So let's not pretend like it doesn't matter. Okay? That's self glorification. That's glorification of humility and poverty. And it is sinful because it distracts from the glory of God and the splendor of the Most High God. Okay? The Muslims understand this. The Orthodox understand this. The Catholics understand this. Look at the masjids, like the really nice ones, like in Turkey and all these places around the world. They build places when you go in, you're like, oh, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Even if you don't, if the people are curmudgeony assholes, you still go inside and you go, okay, there's something bigger to life than just the humdrum, right? If the building where you go to communicate with others and connect with God smells like rotten teeth, musty old men, a gas station bathroom, mothballs, man balls, corpses, nursing home diapers, or any other disgusting order, it is possessed by an evil spirit. And I can tell you because I've been through churches all over the United States, really wealthy, multimillionaire congregation churches, and really broke ghetto churches in the middle of hood central, south this and that with gunshots every once in a while. The pastor's preaching, pop, 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 you know. So I've been to all the churches. I've been to the churches where the upper echelon go, and I've been to churches where it's really rough. And I can tell you that if you walk into a church and it smells like death, walk out immediately because that church is possessed by an evil spirit. Immediately. There's no look. I went to a beautiful church in Washington, D.C. Initially, it was a ghetto church. It was rough. It was breaking down. It was falling apart. But guess what? The Spirit of God moved in through the ministry of Elder Wright at Community Center, Community Praise Center, CPC, in Alexandria, Virginia. And it was Alexandria, Virginia, which is the same as DC. Pardon me. But and look, they turned that place into an opulent temple of God's beauty. They recarpeted it. They put in air conditioning. They made that an exceptional temple to the Most High God. So you may start off with a little ghetto church, but get it together. Trust God, get the funding that you need to get, and all that's going to come in place. God's spirit will not dwell in a place like a ghetto hole. So if you walk to a place and it smells like rotten death, walk out immediately because it's possessed by an evil spirit. Evil spirits are just bad smells like flatulence, rotten flesh. That's literally what they are. You go back to the original etymology of the word. So go back to the original definition of the word spirit. An evil wind is an evil spirit. It's a bad smell. Okay. So there are opulent churches that are run by pompous, arrogant, unloving curmudgeons. These places stink as well. I've been to beautiful Lutheran churches or United Methodist churches. They do pretty good with their churches. And you go inside and there's like 8 people and it looks like beauty, like the stained glass and everything. And the people are looking at you like, and you're dressed nice and you smell good. And they're looking at you like, would you like to not come to our church, please? Would you like to go somewhere else, please? There's only about 10 of us here and that's all we want. Those places stink as well. So it's the smell of the place is not just the stink of dead rotting flesh like you smell in these ghetto churches, but the upper echelon churches in the gated communities where there's like 12 members and nobody comes to church stink as well. So it's the same thing, but they, even if they smell good, there's a spirit of death there. So just walk away from the churches immediately. The house of the Lord must be like your body, clean, healthy, beautiful, and functional. Okay, functional is important. So just think of nature and how beautiful, harmonious, and pristine and orderly it is without any excess effort. When you let nature do its thing, really do its thing, not like they did in California, but when you let nature burn and grow and things do what they do and humans do what they do in nature, it is gorgeous. It is opulent. It is a temple to God's glory. So, it's not required that your church, um, be gilded with gold leaf and covered with precious stones and semi-precious stones if that's not available. It's okay. Your church should be a place where you can feel the spirit and serenity of God through beauty, simplicity, and glory. and it brings your mind to God. Nothing less is tolerable. Keep that in mind. All right, we're at 3. I'm running out of battery and running out of time, so y'all stay with me if you can. Anyway, sign number 3. We got 4 more signs. I don't know, Lord. I'm going to have to make this a series. Let's get through it. We're at 54. All right, let's do this, y'all. Let's make this a 2-part. When I get to an hour, I'm going to shut it down and do a part 2. No, I'm not. That's too much work. All right, sign 3. Your church is... Okay, the sign 3 that you're an Apex church is that your church is creative and expressive. That means your church stands out. Your church is engaging and interesting. Your church is approachable. It is welcoming. Your church is known by the community. It's loved by the community. It is supported by the community. Okay? As emissaries of God's earthly empire and God's divine heavenly empire, we must demonstrate our value by our identity. Okay? We are co-creators with God in this world. Unfortunately, most churches are stale, boring, conformist copycats of the world. Hey, what is the world doing? It's nothing wrong with rap in the church. I've seen some really good rappers out there, but I'm saying, I don't know. The churches are dressing like Jezebels with the with the thing and the thing and the thing. You can see every little crack and every little crevice. Let's do that because that's what God wants us to do now. No, it's not. Like, come on, modesty matters. Let's stop copying the world, guys. They are supposed to emulate us. We emulate God. They emulate us. When you're wealthy and powerful and successful and happy, and I mean wealthy in all ways, not just money, then people look at you and say, hey, we want that. And then they start to get better. Trust me, it happens. So you have to have a spirit of genuine, sustainable human connection in your church. Most churches lack that. So the solution to that is that you bring back the creative flow and friendly vibe of your church. But that happens when you have authentic, genuine, friendly people there. Authentic, genuine, real, natural people there. Not someone who's fake, who's a backstabber, who comes and sits at the church. Hey, let me shake your hand, brother. How you doing? Tell me all your business so I can like blast you when I say a prayer in front of the church. Oh, so your wife is having an affair? You get in front of like 300 people. Lord, help Brother Johnson, whose wife is having an affair. Forgive her, Lord, because, God, you're such a loving God. People have done that in churches. Yes. Okay, so not these people. You need genuine, real people who have real experiences. Identify, if you want to get this, to the core of this, you got to identify members whose creativity, fun, and expressive flow are natural and genuine spiritual gifts that God gave them. When people are placed where they are best suited to serve, God's Spirit is welcomed. When God is glorified, the divine mission is easily fulfilled, and your church will experience the miniature golden age. I've seen this. I have experienced churches that had golden age, miniature golden ages, and I can tell you, I went to a church. It was predominantly Marian, so there was Ethiopians and Nigerians and Jamaicans and Bajans and all these like predominantly Marian people that look like myself, and these were wealthy music producers and captains of industry and diplomats and physicians and neurologists and scientists and lawyers, and like these were extremely educated, erudite, upper echelon people in Washington D.C. area who contributed to a beautiful church, and everybody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to go, and I can tell you, the most beautiful daughters of the Most High were going there, man. I'm telling you. Everywhere you look, okay, she's Cuban. Oh, God bless her. Oh, she's Dominican. Oh, God, she's American. Oh, she's from Houston, Texas. God, so many beautiful, gorgeous women. Beautiful, gorgeous women. A lot of them were doctors and lawyers and professors and all these, like, it was a very high level community. And a lot of them looked like me, meaning complexion wise. They were Marian people. So you don't typically find that in a lot of places where you have this level of upper echelon people. Well, you did there. And as a result, everybody wanted to go there. It was the hot, hip church. Everybody wanted to go there. So a church that is creative and expressive, friendly, and genuinely welcoming to the community is a beautiful church. And like I said, it was a great place. Okay, sign number 4. We're getting through this. Your church honors. If you want to know that your church is a apex church, a child of the Most High God church, a chosen church, is that your church honors order, safety, and boundaries. This is what I was going to talk about earlier. In your church, it must be a safe and secure place for all members, families specifically, and the community. We cannot have weirdos coming into the church, creepalolis, coming to the church. Hey, I work in the kindergarten with the babies. No, unacceptable. Get out now, right? I was going to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger from The Predator. You have to go. Get out now. One of these days, I'm going to post that in there so you guys can laugh because I think it's funny. But anyway, your church should be a safe, secure place for all members, families especially. If you have people in the church that are, just being wrong in that way, men and women, guys, we're not going to marginalize men and say men are the predators. No, women are too. Okay, but if you have these people in your church, you should not ever tolerate it. Number one, we need to have complete intolerance for this kind of chaos, abuse, and violation. I just met a beautiful young lady today that was a victim of this. And this is the problem with this is that it creates women that are broken, angry, and they carry that anger. And when a woman is angry, you got to watch out, like, because God has given her a certain spiritual power. And there are so many women in the world that are broken and angry with these kinds of patterns and pasts. And they go into relationships with this anger and fear and hatred, and they rear boys and sons with, and they spiritually castrate them because of the pain they experience. So we cannot have this. We cannot have it. We cannot tolerate it at any level. Okay, so any violation of sovereignty, integrity, and virtue, and the harmony of God's laws should never be tolerated. And that's why your church must honor order, safety, and boundaries. All right. This is first and foremost. Okay. We do not need to tolerate it at all. So a church that makes sure that children are safe, that men are safe, because there are predator women that come into these churches that were hurt and touched as children, and they're looking for a godly young man to snaggle, to shackle, and to take his life, basically, destroy his reputation. Oh, he did something to me that I didn't want. You need to watch out for those women too. So there are men and women. Look, when you have spiritual discernment, divine discernment, you can see this, you can point it out, and you can say, lady, get out. We don't want you here. You're a danger to our young men. And you make sure she does not come back. And let the women do it. Because the women will love those sons of the church, sons of the Most High, and they will protect them. I was protected from women when I was in the church, and I'm talking about young women that were abused. I was protected from them by the women in my church. My mother and my auntie, who said, yeah, I can see that he likes this girl over here, but something absolutely abominable happened to her as a child. We know about it. Keep her away from him. So they kept me away from dangerous women, women that were touched, or excuse me, women that were abused in the wrong way as children. So I was protected from that by my mother and by other women in the church, my auntie. So shout out to my mom and my auntie for protecting me from women that had been through that hell. So, we got to protect the kids. We already know about the weirdos that get with the kids. The Catholics messed up on this. And so do the evangelicals in Colorado, unfortunately. But we've got to protect our young men as well as our young women and children and things like that. So we got to protect our community. Law and order, no tolerance for any of this malarkey. Okay? So the church that honors God's divine harmony and order is essential, and this is non-negotiable. Okay, non-negotiable. Objective morality is key. We tell society how this works, not the other way around. We tell society what morality is because we are children of the Most High God. We don't go out and, hey, you're doing wrong, you're doing drugs. No. We tell them about, oh, you want to come in our community and do things that will harm our community? Yeah, no, you don't get to do that. So again, we've got to realize we are the salt of the earth. We're the light of the world. We do not need to get contaminated. I don't care how much you love this person. Let's bring my cousin in who was hurt. Now he's blasting off in the bathroom with drugs and stuff. Yeah, no, you don't get to come back until you fix that. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. All right. Yeah, I know we're supposed to have mercy. No, that's what the happy house is for. That's what the mental asylum is for. Get them fixed, send them to recovery. When you fix your life and you demonstrate that you're ready to be one of us, come back. We'll always welcome you back, but you need to be one of us. You're not one of us. Get out now. All right. This is where the Catholic Church and many other churches had an issue. Catholics, they covered up child abuse. This come to these pressures to be tolerant of divergent lifestyles. Again, nothing against certain orientations and things like that. Nothing wrong. Again, I'm not going to hate on people. I'm not going to give people a hard time. But listen, there is too much risk when it comes to certain lifestyles. And look, you can be a part of the church, and you can be a part of even supporting team. We're going to love you because you're a child of God. Just demonstrate that you're apex, and don't try and bring that malarkey. Oh, your kid's starting to show that. Yeah, I think he was born a boy, but maybe he's a girl. Get out now, go, get out now, get to the chopper, get out. Don't kick them out, but just say, hey, look, we don't tolerate that here. If you're going to bring that malarkey, you can go to whoever, the Methodist, that I'll allow all that rainbow stuff. Again, nothing wrong with the rainbow, but we need to take it back, y'all. God made that rainbow. It's His promise. Okay, it's not and I know I'm in the month of June, the rainbow month, but who cares? All right. So anyway, this is where the Catholic Church messed up, and the Methodists messed up a good amount. They succumbed to the pressures to be tolerant by society. Any churches that tolerate child abuse in the sense of molestation is not a place where apex humanity or God's spirit dwells. So just don't allow it. Churches that tolerate the objective immoral abomination acts can never be apex Christian churches and will be eliminated as we transition into the golden age. Meaning, God's spirit's going to go away, the money's going to dry up, the people are going to leave, and those churches will just become, for sale sign in the front. And then we'll buy them, raise them to the ground, and then build I don't know, put a graveyard there or something. Anyway, such churches are anti-life and anti-harmony. Exposing yourself to the energy of such environments contaminates your spirit and causes you to stray from God's holy life. The solution to it all is this. Although divine law and order are essential, grace and mercy and evidence-based compassion must rule in hand in hand. So yes, we're not going to tolerate women that are trying to find a mark. Here's this young, clean, beautiful child, son of the Most High God. He's working on his degree and he's making money, and she's going to come in here and do a false allegation on him. Yeah, we can kick her out immediately, but we do have to have mercy and evidence-based compassion. Perhaps she's mad because he looks like someone that abused her as a child. Well, women, get in there, help her out, because she can be an asset in God's kingdom. She could say, you know what? I was that girl that was looking for a mark. I was looking for a trick. I was trying to find a man to destroy because so many men hurt me when I was a child. And I found this good, innocent guy to try and destroy him. And God came and saved me. And I'm going to help other women to heal from the abuse that happens in childhood. We have to encourage this. As children of the Most High God, we are designed for harmony. We're designed for God's great mission of a golden age. And, look, and, I could talk about the men that are creeps, and I could talk about the weirdos, priests, and stuff like that. But we all know about that. We don't talk enough about the women who come into the church and try to destroy God's sons. Okay? The Jezebels, the Delilahs, and all those others. They're not acceptable either. They're just as bad. Some of these young women, oh, I'm so pretty. And then they come in and try and find a man who's just been widowed and take all his money. That happens, people. So, yes, we do have to identify them. We have to get them out. But we also have to show divine grace and mercy in the sense of evidence-based compassion. If we know that this person is genuinely living for God, and she really wants, because look, she can have that problem and still want to be living for God. She wants to bring God's kingdom into this world, but she's still broken. She's still upset. Help her to forgive. Keep her away from you men, okay? And I'm using that example. I'm not going to talk about creeps and Dutch children because we already know about that, y'all. That's not acceptable. We get that. But not enough people talk about the women that are out there destroying men, destroying families. Hey, look, he's a good pastor. And she's going to say, oh, he did this to me. And now the church is going to go into investigation, destroy his family, destroy his life. I was told about a man whose entire life was destroyed by a false allegation, and he had all the money to buy all the lawyers to take care of it. So we have to protect our young men. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about that in the sense of we got to protect our young men. But again, at the end of the day, God's in charge. He protects you, and when you have a sound mind, a sound heart, you can see that beforehand. Protect yourself. So, but what we do need to make sure we mark that out and remove it from the church. All right. So we are here. Look, we have to actually get to the core of the issue that these people are dealing with. These creepalocious people and these Delilahs and Jezebels, and we have to say what's at the core of this. Let's find out what's at the core of this so we can actually allow God to heal it. It's not our job to heal it, but we do need to have evidence-based compassion for these people. Okay, the standards regarding the family must be maintained. That's a man and a woman, y'all. I don't have to talk about it after that. Man and woman. Let's stop all this malarkey, guys. All right. Regardless of societal pressure, we have to honor that. Now, people from the alphabet soup community, LGBTQAI plus ABCDFG community, totally welcome the community, and you're actually an asset to the family. Believe it or not, I think that that's part of God's mission. People that aren't interested in, making more babies have a valid point and place in the community of God, and I've made a whole video on that. But I think it's important that if we have a man and a woman, men and women in our church that are wanting to bring children and life into the world, we need to put all of our energy toward them, support them, and those of the community that are not part of that, but are genuine children of the Most High God, who are divergent in that world. They don't want to be normal, um, and they were born different. Okay, we'll say they're born different. We're not going to say that. All I'm saying is there are people that they're still valuable. Is what I'm saying. They have value, and let's not marginalize them by saying you can't be around the kids or stuff like that. No, don't do that. But just understand the value that they have, and if they are a school teacher, they're amazing with the kids. Don't kick them out. You're destroying your community by doing that. But at the same time, let's not pretend like, oh, let's make the LGBTQAI plus parents and families. No, heterosexual families, like man, woman. That's what it is, guys. If God wanted to be the other way around, trust me, there'd be only men in the world. Because men wouldn't deal with the malarkey of women, and women wouldn't survive. I don't know. I'm just joking. That's a terrible joke. Anyway, so this is divine order: man, woman, children. Okay, grace and mercy demands that we respect that. And again, we're not going to tear people down, and we're not going to treat people poorly, but we're going to be intelligent. And I can say this as a person who believed I was part of that community. Okay, I was still very interested in women, but I dabbled when I was Luciferian. So, God's grace and mercy comes through and fixes all that. But I just had to make that point. So this matches divine harmony: man, woman, children. Therefore, we have to serve as a magnet to attract respect, admiration, and love of the community. When you own and respect your divine law and the laws of God as you understand them, you're not going to be there like, oh well, they want us to go toe the line and go and do what everybody else is doing. Well, guess what? Hey, that's what everybody else is doing. It's not my problem. The world wants to do the alphabet soup rainbow flag stuff. Okay, go ahead, do it. Let's see how it goes for you. Let's see how it goes. Go ahead. You do what you do. But we're gonna do what we do here. Now these people are welcomed in our congregation. They're part of our community. But we're not gonna pretend like, oh, this is like this is like the normal family. We're gonna put all our energy into the typical heterosexual union. Okay. So that's a hard one because, like I said, I used to be part of the alphabet soup, and I've been. Just, look, you have your proclivities. God doesn't care, but at the end of the day, when we're building God's kingdom, we're not doing it with like artificial insemination. We're doing it the normal way. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. If you have to do artificial insemination because you have fertility issues, again, there's lots of ways around that. And I used to work in that world. Talk to God, get it fixed. Whatever you got to do, you got to do what you got to do. No hatred, just love. All right. Sign number 5. There's a lot, y'all. Look, this is the foundation of uh, God's golden age. So this is a lot. The church is the foundation of it. It's the individual and then it's the church. So the sign number 5 that yours is a chosen church, uh, apex church, is that it's youthful, magnetic, and attractive. And this kind of sounds like number 3 or whatever it was earlier. But the church must have the qualities of youthfulness, wealth, attractiveness, and influence. And we cannot get away from that. An apex Christian church must be a shining light in the community in which it's planted. So it's kind of like number 3. Now, this does not mean you go and boss the community around. On the contrary, apex Christians dominate in an inevitable way because we are charming, we are charismatic. It's the nature of the church. We are the apex. So when people look at us, they're like, oh, I want to be that. I want to be that. We are the light of the world. I want to be that. This means that you serve your community. You provide value to your community. You demonstrate vitality and vivaciousness that comes to the community as a result of your church. The community will support you. When they see, oh, wait, kids are safe in our community around that church. Young men are actually being productive and bringing wealth back into the community. Young women are helping to beautify and expand the community's power and relationship with the world, the church, through the church. Okay? And obviously, just men and women do whatever they need to do as individuals. But the church must be a magnet to the community. Unfortunately, most churches are decrepit, unattractive, repulsive. They're barely known by the community, often little more than a parking lot and perhaps a nice lawn where the teens go to smoke pot at night. Like, that's not acceptable. So the solution to all of that kind of stuff is Christianity is the apex faith. It's the apex path. It shines, it attracts, it magnetizes the world. If your church is just a forgotten neighborhood fixture, you can begin to connect with community You can begin to connect and communicate with the community. Get out and know people, support people, cut lawns, whatever. Show that you're an asset to the community. All right, be a bridge for common enrichment. This is where the feminine aspect comes in. Water draws life unto itself, and many people are drawn together. Let your church be a nexus of connection and of building. Let it be a bridge. Offer things to the community that truly serves them, truly serves them, truly serves them. Okay, in an apex way. Offer childcare. Make sure the people that are watching the kids are safe or certified or intelligent, whatever. Find a way to be an asset to the community. Excuse me. All right. And that's how you build God's kingdom. And then number 6, running out of battery. We're doing it. Number 6, your church is alive, active, and abundant. The key word is family here. With alive, active, and abundant, your church has families. I said this, I'm probably repeating myself. Maybe I'm going deeper. But anyway, the church has family, young adults, and community elders integrated and working together. You need the little monsters, you need the middle-aged quasimorphs, the teens, you need the young adults who are looking for spouses to create families or to create careers or whatever. Some people don't want to have families, that's okay. And then you need the older adults, the elders of the community. You need all of these generations. This is what creates a healthy community. Your church has to be full of young families, though. You should have a majority of young families. Ask the mom and daddy, little monsters running around. You need that, guys. You need that. The sounds of little monsters, as well as the laughter of elders, should be a constant presence in your church community. Elders working in the gardens around the church and teaching lessons, sharing their wisdom. Children playing on safe playgrounds and running through green rolling patches on the church lawn. The church, the youthful church with little children is an apex church. This is why it's so important that there will be no tolerance for child abuse, no tolerance for molestation, okay? At all, at all. A youthful church is naturally joyful, and such a community will have a vibrant and powerful impact on society and on the world. Unfortunately, most churches are filled with aging, dying population. You go into church, it's like 8 old ladies sitting there, 5 of them are asleep, 2 of them are talking to themselves, and one, we don't know if she's still alive, right? The few youthful young adults that are left in those congregations are children of single, strong mothers, which is great, but they're stuck. They're flightless birds, and they're in a single mother home. Okay, a single gender older church is a dead church. So if your church just has like 80%, 90% women, and 50% of those women are single, your church is dead. I'm sorry, it's dead. Oh, but we're a pro lesbian church. Okay, well, are those lesbians gonna make some more babies? Like, come on, guys, we're going into a golden age. You got to get together. Solution is Christianity must take center stage in world events. If your church is filled with old fogies or single strong spinsters or senile old ladies, your church is as good as dead. So take it back. I wrote this. I'm not going to read it. But I'm saying, they say if you have an idea that doesn't work, take it out back and put a bullet in it. Bury it in the cemetery in the back of the church. Move on to a church that is vibrant, vivacious, and a lively population. If you're at a church that is slowly dying and is buying into a lot of feminist jargon, or if it's one of those bro churches where it's all dudes, like, come on, guys. That's a dead church. It has to be both male, female, children, older, younger. It has to be a holistic church. Start an apex church of your own if you're in one of these dead churches. That means a church that has families and young children, socially active young men seeking wives, attractive young women seeking husbands, elders with a wealth of wisdom and experience to share with those who have respect and honor for the community. A vibrant church is an abundant, multi generational apex church. Let God lead. Check out these verses. Maybe I'll drop them in the description below. All right, we're getting down. Philippians 4:13, Mark 11:22 through 26, Isaiah 43:18 through 19, and Jeremiah 33:3. Let these verses be encouraging to you when you're building your church. And sign number 7, we're at the end, y'all. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Sign number 7, 7%. Let's do it. All right, we're at 78 minutes. Okay. The final sign, this is the bonus, that your church is sacred, holy, pure. The final sign is that your church is sacred, holy, pure, and make space for it. The key word is sacred. Okay, sacred, sacred, sacred. This means set apart. Think secret. Okay, your church is peaceful. It's a place of reflection, renewal, and restoration. The church is more than just a building. It is a spirit of the system in which that building is founded. Unfortunately, most churches don't have this anymore. They don't have a sanctuary that is kept sacred. They don't have anything They have this kind of idea of come as you are, and that's been grossly overstated. People coming in smelling like drugs and alcohol, or they unwashed, they smell like a butt, like, let's fix that, guys. Take them to the side. Like, if you go into a nice restaurant, you can't come in there anyway. You got to put on a jacket. If you don't have a jacket, they'll give you a jacket. Like, violations must be addressed, okay? If you're in an upper echelon gym and every time you go there, you smell like, gym socks and a bag of moth, nastiness, then they're going to tell you to leave, or they're going to ask you to use the shower or something, right? The church should be similar. Come as you are has been grossly overstated. Other churches can do that, but Apex churches, no. All right. Christianity must be sovereign again. The church is a node of that sovereignty. Okay. This means that your sanctuary is not always available to everyone all the time. You must have sacred spaces that are free of chaotic behavior, noise, and energy. Negative talking, gossip, that should never happen in the sanctuary. Like ancient temples of old, the church must have order and separation. A public space for everyone, strangers, non members. A transitional space for new members. A holy space for elders and those of honor and long-standing members. A most sacred place for the chosen, and a place for children. You need a place where children can play and make noise and be crazy. Every church needs that. Children must be the way God made them. Crazy, noisy, crying, noisy little things, right? Ritual cleaning and preparation must be encouraged. That means you smell good, you show up right. And if you're going to go into the Holy of Holies, you need to have your hands washed, your butt washed, your mouth washed, your head washed. You need to be clean, is what I'm saying, meaning your spirit washed, everything washed all the way through. Smelly people and things should never be allowed in the church, okay? Noisy people and things should not be allowed in the most holy places. This is how we bring back God's golden age churches. The conclusion is, like I said before, all right, we're doing this, guys. Like I said before, say it again. Christianity is vital for us moving into the golden age. Churches are an essential part of building the golden age, and the original churches and temples were built like nature. They elevate you up to God. They enrich and refine our spirits, the divine spark within us, and this is how they perpetuated life. Your church, so I'm going to go through real quick. Your church must be a bridge to God. Number one, to be an apex church, these seven things have to happen. It has to be a bridge to God, number one. It should be attractive and beautiful, number two. It should be creative and expressive in the community. It must be safe, organized, and secure for men, women, and children. Your church must be magnetic and attractive in your community. It must be alive, full of life, full of flow. And then your church must be a sacred space and have sacred space for God's chosen. So anyway, like I said, I'm Dr. Merlin Sy, and in 2010, God shattered my false identity and woke me up. That's why I wrote the book, Hey God, Wake the Fuck Up, to help the chosen reconnect with God in a real and natural way. Nowadays, I create the space where God speaks to his chosen. This channel isn't for spiritual ninny billies. This is not a spiritual snowflake, victim-minded, light-chasing, gummy worm channel. This is for the apex humans like you who want to restore God's earthly empire and reawaken the golden age. If your soul remembers the mission and you want to have that beautiful life that God has promised, forgive yourself, love yourself, restore God's kingdom on earth, welcome home. Stay Apex. We did it, y'all. Stay Apex.